Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today we're going to be talking about the GungHo Collab that is coming to has arrived in North America by the time you're watching this. But this event is a reoccurring one because it is GungHo owned and based, so they can basically replay it, so to speak, and it will come back on a regular basis. So there is no critical time to necessarily roll because it will return. And at this point in time, it's kind of gone through a dip. The last time it came through, it was featured alongside a nice Super Godfist where I got most of my cards, and at that time the cards tend to be a little stronger. At this point in time, the main issue I feel of this event is that it feels already old right now, and that is because the meta is heavily shifting towards transformation, and in order to do so you need lots of skill boosts or effective skill boosts. So basically high skill boost cards with actives that have haste or delays can make it so you can get that transformation done turn one and then stop through the dungeon. Because this is an older event, most of those cards are not necessarily geared or shaped towards that necessarily, so this is not necessarily the best place to pick up those types of cards. There are still valuable monsters to roll from this event, but at the same time, it's not necessarily going to advance you as much by comparison to other things. It's almost like a side grade, maybe a side grade and a bit of an upgrade by comparison. And what also has made this event a little less ideal is that they've re-added back in the 5-star cards. So it's its own separate machine. When I pulled most of my cards for this event, I pulled during a Super Godfest, so I had at least other kinds of collateral benefits. I wasn't getting the same bottom rarity card over and over again at least. And that is going to be the case here. But with that being said, this is a gigantic rolling pool. And there's a lot of cards to talk about. There's a lot of evolutions for each card. And they're not necessarily distributed that well. Like, it can be hard to pick out all the icons, but for the most part, the better cards tend to be the higher rarity ones. Because there are so many, at least there's a slightly higher chance of getting any one of those, but at the same time, it's going to be difficult to actually snipe the one particular card you may be after. So let's just dive right into the tons of different cards. So the first one is Lilia, and she comes from Chronomagia, if I'm not mistaken, and in her base form, she has an active skill that I feel is not the greatest. It's a 1-turn combo count plus, and locking all orbs. I'd rather take something like Bradamante or their evolved form, which will convert water, jam, or poison into wood orbs and then lock wood orbs. Like, at least it gives you a bit of counter to spinners, not as good as Bradamante, but I still feel like the base form is not where you want to put your focus on. And the main issue is because the evolved form has very similar type of leader skill. It wants to hit high amounts of combos. Basically 10 combos is where you unleash your 20 times attack for both forms. But in her dark form, when you form a match of 9 connected wood orbs, or basically a VDP, you are able to deal 1 follow-up damage. So now you basically have follow-up attack built into your leader skill. And that's invaluable because against the stronger spawns where you need to VDP, you no longer have to worry about that column of hard orbs. I would still bring a follow-up attack card on your team somewhere because you're not always going to have 9 wood orbs, and she is actually just a combo-based leader. And when you do hit 7 combos, you're going to have, with dual leaders, just because a lot of people seem to think that dual leaders is where the multipliers make more sense, is 196 times. And then 256 with 8, it goes up higher eventually to 10. So your damage output can be a little on the low end if you don't hit the above 7 combos, but this can definitely be corrected with 7x6 swaps. You can enter in of a 7x6 board, such as like Romeo, and then leader swap Lilia back into position, and now you've got a very solid, healthy leader with easy to achieve multiplier because you can hit those 10 combos on a bigger board, and you have auto follow-up attack damage when you make a 3x3 box. She is quite a powerful leader despite not being consistent auto follow-up attacker because it's not from every match, and she isn't transformational, but she still can get the job done. And she has the nice distribution that I find of 3-7 combos and VDP along with this L awakening, so she brings that utility on her team herself. She can use devil killers, which are relevant for any arena style content at this point in time. For their weapon assist, they provide passive damage through Wood Rose and a Cloud Resist. And this is kind of the future, so to speak, of stronger weapon assists. You combine a strong defensive metric with passive damage. And in this case here, you don't have to worry about Cloud Resist. You still add in supplemental damage if you're matching a row. Doesn't synergize with her own team, but I wouldn't be surprised if we started getting more blob wood leaders in the future, where this actually makes more sense. The main drawback is the active skill is quite weak. It's on only a 11 or 6 turn cooldown, and the effect is probably not going to be what you want all the time, I feel, unless there is a very heavy spinner dungeon. Next is Omega, and Omega's base form, they have a 1-turn active skill, and they do have reasonable awakenings, but the thing is, we don't benefit from this 1-turn active skill. There's no fire leader that needs an active skill every turn. The active itself is not as crucial like Zerog Core because it's only making a single fire orb. So despite the fact that I feel like it is a reasonably strong card, there's just no way to truly utilize them. And because of that, I want to focus more on their evolved form because that is where the vast majority of players are going to make. So in their evolved form, they have a self-harming active skill, and then they create 2 rows at the top and the bottom. So a double row maker with self-harm that has synergy with their leader skill is quite impressive, and he's actually one of the more powerful farming leaders available because as long as you're a fire type card, you hit with dual leaders 324 times when below half health, which your active can do for you. And they have 8 times personal damage. Your friend will too. You probably have lots of subs with these attack while below 50%. It's going to be explosive amounts of damage with very little effort. You can weave in rows. You can weave in other passive damage such as orb enhances, and it's going to make short work of quite a few dungeons. And the amount of value this brings comes down to how important this is for you. If you're someone who just plays casually or just picks up and likes to play through a dungeon, they don't intend to play the dungeon many times in a row, Dark Omega definitely has a bit less merits because when you think about it, you can clear a dungeon slowly or quickly. If you result in a clear, you still get the same amount of rewards, you just saved time. So it all depends on how important that is for you, and that kind of will illustrate how important or valuable Dark Omega would be. For their weapon assist, like Lilia, they have a nice strong defensive metric of tape and 3 fire rows. And there are lots of fire row teams, so this definitely has quite a bit of relevance. The problem is the active skill is so short, it's going to accidentally charge up on a regular basis, and that's going to be problematic because the active charged up is 1 fire orb. Next is Gamayla, and she, in her base form, is not going to be where you're going to want to focus. I might be kind of glancing over weaker forms because there's so much to cover, and I want to just address what makes her so strong. And the reason why is because in her evolved form, she is a much stronger damage solution. It's not based on L's. It's got 7 and 10 combo, has a VDP, also has a natural cloud, which greatly opens up team building compositions. We have things like Chidori, we have things like Kaiba, who are 777 combo VDP with super poison resist, or Chidori super poison resist and some distribution of 10 combos and VDP. Either way, those tend to be the more popular VDP solutions possibly because they bring a powerful secondary effect alongside of it. So you either can ignore poison or ignore clouds, and that is quite powerful. And their active skill is reasonable. It's a tricolor board with +1 combo count. Obviously, it works better with auto follow-up attack leaders, but her main prowess hinges on you having a 7x6 board. So for things like Minaka, even base Minaka paired with evolved Minaka because she is dragon typing, Gamayla can be your damage solution for that team. She will want to function basically whenever Minaka is used as a leader because that's her best 7x6 water card at this point in time. So as long as you have that, she becomes an incredibly strong card, or on Beach Varroa teams, because Beach Varroa gives you +6 combos for matching a VDP. That's going to be quite easy to do match 4, hit 10 combos, easy, big damage. So she is a very strong solution in those regards, and that's basically the capacity she wants to be used. For her weapon assist, I actually think it's quite strong, and I feel it is possibly something that players are going to use for transformation cards maybe in the future, because it gives you a tape resist, which we do like, but it gives team health, team recovery, which are always helpful awakenings. It's never a bad thing to have more bulk, but the active skill is a delay, and it also makes wood and hazards to water. So it charges up, and you can get effective skill boost. Now this is a 2-turn effective skill boost weapon assist. That's pretty helpful because oftentimes you can inherit this on something with a short base cooldown. You delay the floor, you get 2 more turns to charge up, you transform, you're on your merry way. So this definitely can be an option, but just remember you only can use 1 delay active for transforming cards. Next is Shikigami, and in their base form, they can have 4 skill boosts. So maybe for your Yugi teams, because of his devil typing, you could utilize them, but I don't feel like they're that strong. I feel like there are better options available, mostly because their active skill does not help you, at least in arena-style content. It will help you in things like training arena. So if you are planning to play through training arena, this definitely helps because that 100% defense break, you can transform turn 1, you can convert light to dark orbs. It's just going to be a nice act to have all around, and it could be something for that purpose. But beyond that, I don't feel like I would want to bring them into other dungeons because their damage is conditional being high health. The killers, while useful in current content, I don't feel like it's going to be that much damage. They don't line up either, and it just won't be enough output for the most part. But thankfully, well, not so much their evolved form. I'm not generally that impressed with their evolved form, except for the fact that they produce a column of dark orbs twice with no skyfalls. So again, kind of like Dark Omega, if you are farming things as fast and efficiently as possible, making 10 dark orbs with no skyfalls makes the clear go faster. And if you try to use them as a sub, again, they would only work on teams if you are below low health. So that definitely has synergy if you're using, like, say, Dark Orphan, who is someone who can use any type of card or that sort of idea. It can be something that brings some value. It's a fast orb changer. Again, it can work out in farming builds. And lastly, I want to talk about their weapon assist. So their weapon assist gives you full bind immunity and then attack while above 80%. And then the active skill is that same defense break, which helps in things like training arena, but not so much in arena. So we do have many options for full bind immunity, but giving that card a bit of extra damage can make a difference. For example, Bakura has the capacity to deal massive amounts of damage, but they are vulnerable to binds. This gives them the bind immunity, gives them some more damage. It's not as good as their own personal weapon assist, but that's something you can kind of utilize. For instance, Halloween Cotton can benefit from this. Halloween Cotton is vulnerable to binds. If you take the Tape Super Awakening, slap this on her, she's immune to binds. She's your main damage dealer possibly. You deal bonus damage when above 80% health. You are happy once again. Next is Luluna, and her main appeal is making certain dungeons brain dead and easy to farm. And the reason for that is because her multipliers are not quite high enough to be competitive in other forms of content, but their active skill and their leader skill can provide large amounts of bonus combos. And for their active, it gives you +3 combos and makes a row of wood. Their leader skill, when dual leaders, you gain +1 combo from each, so +2 combos total when you match 6 or more connected wood orbs. When you do that, you will have +5 combos. So there are quite a few types of content where you want to, again, play it as fast as possible. And let's say there's a combo sheet where you have to hit 6 or more combos to pass. Well, you make a row and swipe. Suddenly you hit 6 combos. It can solve some problems in those regards, something to keep in mind. They do have actually reasonable damage output if you make a super follow-up attack with a VDP, and they also have 3 skill boosts, so it can basically just kind of synergize with themselves and their kit if you have things like Zila boards to abuse as well. But other than that, I feel like their multipliers are a bit too low to be truly competitive overall. For Dark Luluna, I feel that she's not as strong by comparison. Her killers, while having 4 unique ones, it's hard to line up. You're not going to have that concentrated damage, not going to have that great damage output you're really wanting to have with your offensive cards. Their active skill gives you full bind and awoken bind recovery, which again can be helpful, and a 3-turn burst. But I feel that it's just not a justifiable enough sub compared to other options. It's not doing enough utility, I feel, overall, because their awakenings are more geared towards offensiveness. Next is their weapon assist, and actually I should talk about their leader skill. So they do have the capacity to deal large amounts of damage, but you have to match 4 more colors, so your rainbow, and you do get 5 turns of Woken Bind clearing when you do heal 20,000 or more health, but that's just a weird mechanic. I feel it won't be abused. For their weapon, they give, again, 3 nice resists, well, 2 nicer resists, 1 okay resist, 2 poison, 1 jammer, and then 2 wood rows. And then they have the same like plus combo count row generating active skill on a long cooldown. And that long cooldown can work in your favor because it'll be harder to accidentally charge up. And if it does charge up, it's still actually a reasonable active skill as well. So you layer in passive damage, you layer in resist, kind of the sign of a useful weapon assist. Next is Knight, and in their base form, they give you bonus egg drop rate. So for something where you're farming event medals, like for like the collab dungeon or the event dungeon, basically getting those medals and monster exchange for the higher levels, that sort of content is where this type of leader skill shines. The problem is Knight needs to hit 9 or more combos, and Varroa only needs to hit 5 combos for her smaller damage multiplier, but it's much more consistent by comparison. And this can save you quite a bit of stamina in the long run, but again, I feel that his kit is not suited for it because the leader skill doesn't work, and their evolve form is quite a spicy solution. So, for their evolve form, they changed their kit completely. They now are a 99 turn light Skyfall buffing card. That is always helpful. It's basically the Hiei equivalent for light. And if you have lots of light orb enhances, it's just going to make your day so much better. Furthermore, their awakenings are offensively related. They can get 777 combo with the VDP, they have some team health, they have reasonably strong weighted stats. Like, they're a nice solid damage solution card. And the main drawbacks is that he doesn't give resist, he doesn't give a skill boost. He only gives 1 skill boost. And this may sound critical, but at this point in time, we're starting to see much stronger offensive options that bring some defensive utility. Look at Gamayla, she gives you that natural cloud resist. Look at Kaiba, he gives you super poison. Chidori's super poison as well. We're starting to see these types of things, and it's going to be pushing out these kind of older damage dealers. He is still strong, but he is just not as powerful as Guri, who is kind of like the ultimate card, who has super resist and a relevant killer. But the point being is, Knight is definitely falling behind in those regards, and their weapon assist doesn't actually come with this active skill. It comes with a button and changing all orbs to wooden light. So if you are playing a light auto follow-up attack leader, it definitely helps, especially for future transformational cards, because that 1 skill boost. But the thing is, 1 skill boost wants to have other benefits. There's a combo orb, and combo orbs are just underwhelming, so it's just not that valuable of a weapon assist in my opinion. You're better off just keeping him in this form, and if anything, you can't fit him on your team, inherit him, because that's just a better active skill. Next is Cian, and she's quite sad overall. She gives you 4 turns of healing 30% of your max health on a 13 turn cooldown. It's not fast enough or even that high either, because you get a board changer alongside of it compared to Kuroyuri's. Kuroyuri's can make a system, Cian cannot. Not a good card now by comparison for that regards. They have so many L's, we don't really want L's. They do have auto follow-up attack damage, but they have to match a wood L and then 6 or more connected orbs. So if you want a VDP, you need 14 orbs. It's just not practical. It's just not a good card at this point in time. By comparison, Bradamante is very strong. Her active skill is powerful. It changes jammers and waters to light and then locks all orbs. And because we're starting to see harder and harder dungeons feature more and more spinners, this is the perfect and elegant solution. It's fast charging. It's an active orb changer that we actually want to have. There's no drawback to this active skill. It's just so powerful. And then we combine it with her offensive awakening. She gets a 10 combo, she gets a 7 combo, she gets a VDP. She doesn't have Gamayla's free resist, but she has strong stats if you ignore RCV, which is kind of okay because Tifa tends to be where she shines because you need the 7x6 board, and Tifa has a gazillion RCV. So then all those stats being shifted to health and attack does give her a bit of an edge in those regards as well. Basically, Bradamante is a superstar monolight sub. The active skill, because it's so fast, you can carry other types of inherits, which can give you more flexibility, and then just abuse this fast charging spinner countering orb changer afterwards. For myself, because I actually rolled her, what I do is I assist Brachydios' weapon assist, which has 4 enhanced light orbs, and the attack while above 80% awakening. And that just gives her stupendously high amounts of damage output. It gives the team more damage output, and it allows me to just basically abuse this wonderful base active skill. So if you have kind of those kind of pieces together, I like putting them together, and it just basically solves most to all of my damage needs. Next is GungHo Reeche, and they're basically a color-swapped form of the blue Reeche from Rare Machine. And blue Reeche is seldom used because they're just stronger options available. Their leader skill does not give enough effective health. It's a rainbow-based leader, which means you have to be truly amazing to really shine because you have difficulties overcoming voids. Yes, you do have 2 skill charge. You can activate their active skill on a much more regular basis, but it's just weaker compared to other rainbow-based cards available. There are things that just provide more value. And their weighted stats are okay. But the main problem is you don't really use Rare Machine Reeche. You're not going to really use Dark Reeche anymore by comparison. And you don't even get a weapon assist, which seems a little insulting by comparison. Next is Noir, and she is just a reliable damage dealer. She gets 777 combo VDP. Her active skill makes 4 Dark Orbs, delays by 1 turn, enhancing all Dark Orbs on an 8-turn cooldown. So you got Orb Generation and Burst and a delay, which may or may not be useful, but it's on a reasonable cooldown. Useful active skill, strong offensive awakenings, is balanced killer, so you can get anything you, is balanced typing, so you can use any killer you want. It's just a nice, reliable card. She's not flashy. She's still good at what she does. There are definitely more powerful options available, but again, it is reliable. I've used it on my Phenomenon Ina team because I had enough color coverage anyway, so the dark wasn't a problem. Next is Ralg, and Ralg is kind of like Dark Omega. How much you like to farm stuff quickly will dictate how valuable he is. His active skill gives a small to possibly modest amount of button damage depending on your team composition. Removes locked orbs, creates a row of fire at the top on a 7-turn cooldown. So pretty rapid. You can probably use it twice in a dungeon. He gives you massive amounts of passive damage. That's kind of the extent of what he does. You can throw him on your Dark Omega teams and you're going to have a good time. There's not that much else to this card. Next is Orange without the N. They used to be a lot more valuable, I feel, but it's just not where we want them at this point in time. And the main reason is we have so many more options for like double row making, or basically ways to spawn a predetermined fixed pattern of orbs to quickly solve. And Orage gives you an L, so it's 10 water orbs in total. So you use it after a mono board changer, like say Zeus Dios, so it's full board of wood. You make the cross of water, you have a 20-10 distribution. You can make with it whatever you want, but we do have lots of double row makers. It's just not that unique either at this point in time. And some of the double row makers have been farmable in the past because of collabs. So I have Orange, but I don't really find myself using her. She does get 4 skill boosts, she does get Cloud, but her active skill is kind of a longish cooldown. It's not what you really want from a transforming card, I feel. I could be wrong, but I'm not sure. Like, I haven't been able to use her that well, but maybe if there's a strong water transformational leader that just wants attackers or machines, maybe it might work out because it does give natural cloud resist, which can be helpful. Next is Karin, and in her base form, it's like a weaker Edward, and Edward is not that strong now, so it kind of gives you an idea of what her power potential is. She is a combo-based leader, one who also wants to match colors. Lots of problems. The multipliers aren't that high. Let's look at her dark form, because that's what everyone is going to make in the vast majority of situations. So for her evolved form, she has 3 skill boosts. She has 7 combo Devil, Dragon, and VDP. Amazing awakenings for things for arena style content where all the end spawns are devils or dragons or both, and Dark Karin will just melt them with a VDP. And her leader skill only needs to hit 5 or more connected orbs, and that's it. There's no combo count. So you can make a VDP plus a follow-up attack, and you could possibly kill things because her own personal damage is quite high. And Dark Karin also has many favorable leader pairings. You could pair with Halmaru for auto follow-up damage, or you could pair with Tifa for even more RCV, but the bigger board. And basically, on both teams, you have a very similar leader skill activation requirement. And another thing to possibly keep in mind is that the bonus orb movement time can be helpful if you're lacking that time extends for, say, 7x6 leaders. And with 3 skill boosts and the correct typing for the future Fasca Godfest exclusive, Dark Karin can be have another potential pairing as well. because she is a transformational card and thus skill boosts are helpful. The time extend is helpful on the bigger board. It's just going to make your life a little easier. So Dark Karin is still strong, and in theory she does get quote-unquote better as more and more strong pairings are available. Like, yes, she is not as strong as the perfect team composition if you had every single card, but owning Dark Karin now means you probably have a good number of pairings for the future, and it can be a reasonable thing overall. I wouldn't trade for her, but if you have her, I'd be happy. In regards to her weapon assist, she provides you with a single skill boost, which again, for transformational cards is valuable, and a physical killer with a reasonable active skill. You change hearts and hazards to light 3 times burst. It is useful in things like Colosseum where you need that burst at the end. And that physical killer, it's a relatively niche killer. I don't see that many physical spawns in general, but in Colosseum 2, there are actually quite a few number of physical spawns towards the end that actually have large health pools. I believe floor 19, all the spawns are physical, so it can help you out there for sure. Next is Zeta, and in their base form, they want rows, they want combos. It's not a leader we want to really look at. Their active skill is not that great. They do have some passive damage, but their dark form is really just better, and that's kind of how this game works. If a card has 2 different forms, one is better than the other, you're going to pick the better form usually. And because Dark Zeta is still able to form a powerful and fast team. For their leader skill, they give 4 times health for water and 43.75% damage reduction when matching water and dark. You have a gargantuan amount of effective health, but you do have to be lower health to deal damage. So if you have a healing stick solution like Mutt or Mel, you are able to at least heal back up quickly. You can then kind of juggle your health back and forth, and you can basically tank any preemptive with proper planning. And they only have to match water and dark plus be below 80% health. So in reality, you want to be below 50, then you trigger all of his attack while below 50% awakenings. He has a VDP, he has a natural L as well, and duplicates of himself are helpful because their active makes you water, dark, and heal orbs, everything you need to kill something, and cuts your health by half. So you can basically 2 combo your way to victory. A VDP will kill everything basically if you are low health and you have multiple Zetas on your team. It's just large amounts of damage. So why is he not like as amazing as other leaders? It's because he's not 7x6, he's not auto follow-up attack damage, and managing your health can potentially be a bit of a hazard as well. He can still crush things like Arena 5 in very fast times with very little risk, and it is a fun team to play. I do own Dark Zeta, and I've played it, and I'm like, this is kind of nice. I kill things with very little effort. It does feel satisfying, especially when you only need like a VDP of water, a dark combo, and a follow-up attack, and you can kill the end game spawn. Pretty helpful. For their weapon assist, it's actually very strong for mono water because you get the 2 water rows, which is offensive. You get 60% blind resist, and a healer killer awakening. So kind of like physical killer, healer is quite niche, but I think it's even more niche because I looked at Colosseum 2 and Arena 3's end spawns. There's basically no healers of relevance, but it's free damage. Maybe we'll need it at some point. It's just icing on the cake. It doesn't take away from the fact that it gives you those other types of benefits. And the activate skill itself is reasonable. You change light and hazards to water, +2 combo count. It's a reasonably long cooldown, so it won't accidentally charge up. Not much loss in this weapon assist overall. Next is Elena, and for Elena, she removes, in her base form, she can function as an interesting ranking dungeon solution. When I got her some time ago, I was quite excited because at least initially for early ranking dungeons, she was quite helpful because I guess we didn't have as many bicolor actives available. We didn't have magic lens, so to speak. But for Elena, you give a bicolor board and you give 4 turns of Fire Skyfalls. So for ranking dungeons, this is definitely quite helpful. For Fantastic in the current ranking dungeon, I was lacking certain cards, and this weapon assist proved to be quite helpful for this active skill because you want Skyfalls in most ranking dungeons, and I got a bicolor board I can quickly solve. But I don't find myself using her in her base form that often because you do have killers, but it's not enough killers. It's not concentrated damage. Like things like Tsubaki and number 6, they have lots of killers of one type. You know what they're going to be good against, and they're very good at it. Elena, in theory, you could get a God Killer twice and God Killer Latents, but I just feel like it's still... I don't find myself using her that often for some reason. I just don't know why. And for the leader skill, it's not something I want to have. You need to match 3 fire combos. Good luck VDPing. Just not going to happen. But in their dark form, this would have been nicer if this was the weapon assist, I feel, because it's a 99 turn Skyfall buff for fire. And mono fire teams will always love to have this active skill. But you would have to either use her directly as a sub, which is not the best because her offensive capabilities are attack while above 80%, which is not something that's consistent by any means, and it doesn't bring much else to the table. So if you inherit her kind of like Knight, it's going to be, you have a nice active skill, but you just don't get extra awakenings, which is problematic. For their weapon assist, like I mentioned for that active, I find it's really just a good ranking dungeon solution because you get a killer, you get a TPA, which is not that great in most cases, but in ranking dungeons, you get style points, you get passive damage against balance types, which might be useful, get that useful active. I slapped this on my Horus, made Horus hit harder. It was a good day overall. Next is Raizer, and in Raizer's base form, they have an interesting leader skill. They can deal reasonably high amounts of damage with no combo count requirement. You just need to be below 79% health, which is easy enough to do, I'd say, when your active skill is a self-harming ability. So it helps in that sense. And you get damage reduction when you're high health, but you have 2.25 times health constantly. So they do have modest amounts of effective health, but again, like I said with Dark Zeta, juggling health is difficult, and Dark Zeta is a much stronger damage solution by comparison, so Raizer's base form is going to be nowhere near as valuable. But I have seen them used in some ranking dungeons because if the dungeon's very long, you can make 1 combos and kill things because you deal damage by being low health. It's unconditional to combo count. For his dark form, their active skill reduces your health by 50% once again, but they do a modest amount of button damage. But then the whole idea of this active is 2 turns of bypassing damage absorb effects. And that means he is a 2-turn Fujin. So damage absorption is the worst design mechanic in this game, in my opinion, and being able to counter 2 turns of it might seem excessive. Like if you flub, sure, you have a backup, but the real benefit of this is for things like Arena 5 or Alt Arena 3. There are floor patterns where there is a possibility where you fight 2 damage absorption spawns back to back. And if you want to go as fast as possible, you can use a Dark Raizer because you now have 2 turns of damage absorption canceling. Depending on what your goal is, going through it fast is obviously nice, but if you're somewhat struggling, Durga can be a spot to stall, especially in Arena 5 where she's not as dangerous. So I don't have Dark Raizer on my main account. I don't have 2-turn Fujins. I've still managed to clear Arena 5 and Alt Arena 3 many times. Would have been nice to have, for sure. But is it mandatory? I feel like no. You can still get away without it, but kind of like many of the other cards in this event, this active skill is what we want. That's not what's featured on the weapon assist. For their weapon assist, they give 2 team health and attacker killer. So same idea, attacker killer is quite niche, doesn't have that much applications. 2 team health gives you large amounts of bulk, but unless you're truly desperate to hit preemptive thresholds, you're usually better off with resist because those provide strong counters to much more dangerous effects. So if you do have enough health, I'm not sure how this will necessarily benefit as much. But again, if you are short, maybe it can work because there are not that many 2 team health weapon assists. But the active skill is not that great. It's just like a lot you have to sacrifice overall. Now we come to the 6 stars, and Urs Laguna is terrible. You don't do anything of value. You do like a bit of button damage, you do a column of fire orbs. Your awakenings are 3 different killers, which will probably not line up. You have 2 skill boosts, not that many. It's just, you're not doing much of anything. I don't think it's that valuable. By comparison, Grand Starster is quite a strong mono water sub. Their active skill is what makes them quite appealing, I feel, is because it's an 8-turn cooldown, which is short, for a tricolor board changer with hearts. Yes, you make jammers, but this is why the active skill is faster to charge up, and you also get hearts and water. Furthermore, you can reduce 5 turns of bind and awoken binds. So you've just combined a useful cleric style active skill with a relevant board changer that can be procced quickly, and you've got a nice active skill. Furthermore, their awakenings are quite strong. You do have 3 enhanced water orbs, so your primary damage dealer is doing even more damage. You have double 7 combos, so you're not bad. You also can either get an L, a follow attack, or a tape. And those things, as tape especially, could be difficult to get, especially naturally without a weapon assist. So this can solve those problems. But one thing I want to mention is that they do have low team costs. So if you are playing through things like Coliseum 2, they are guaranteed to level up past level 100 and tap into Super Awakenings. So if you're banking on having tape resist through Super Awakenings, Grand Starster will basically always have that available. Now, they do have this Jammer Blessing Awakening, and it's kind of like Poison Blessing in the sense that jammers will fall down periodically, but it's only 1.5 times damage, not 2. He only has 1 of those. It's not as high as Bakura's 2 times damage for poison, and Bakura also has 3 poison blessings and his weapon assist, which give him 4. It's just not made the same way, and in all honesty, do not awaken that last one unless a jammer meta somehow arises. Next is Belial. They have a bunch of TPAs. I've seen them used in certain ranking dungeons long ago. I don't know if that will ever occur again, but a reasonably strong TPA stick is helpful for things like the current ranking dungeon where you need to possibly kill without 7 combos. May or may not happen, but heavy TPAs can have situational value every now and then. Next is Mercury. She has double Dragon Killer and 2 attack while above 80%. But she can use Dragon Killer Latents, so that's great. She also can get Physical or Attacker Killer Super Awakenings. Those may not necessarily work out every time, but at least it's 3 times plus another 1.5, so that's 4.5 times 1.5. Like close to 7 times personal damage against physical. Not bad still. If they're Physical Dragon or Dragon Attacker, even much more damage. So she's just a strong damage solution when no voids are present. Things for like ranking dungeons or farming builds is where Mercury will definitely shine. I own Mercury. I've used her in some ranking dungeons. It was kind of critical to have her. It made my life easier. Useful in those regards. I kind of like having cards from events. It's nice being able to talk about and actually own the cards. Speaking of owning cards, I do own a Shust. I haven't found much use for him yet. So I don't do that much co-op farming with myself that much anymore because I don't know why. But the main appeal of Shust is they're 300 times button damage. So you stick them on something with very high attack, you deal big button damage, bypass the floor. It's on only a 14 turn cooldown, so it can make it easier to juggle around skill boosts, which can definitely have value there. And it also creates a row of water orbs. So if you're using a water-based leader like Machine Noah, who wants to be low health, ta-da, something helpful came out of it as well. So they have value in that. As a sub, I don't feel like they have a place at this point in time because they could get 4 skill boosts, so it could be good for transformation, but unless it's a water transformation card who wants Rose and being low health, it's going to be hard to really work it around. If you don't utilize them for the 4 skill boosts, it's 2 skill boosts with Cloud. It's an okay sub. Like, I feel like most of the appeal right now is in the button. Maybe in the future a water transforming card will make Shust relevant, but I don't think it's here at this point in time. Next is Artemis, and they have double evolution material killers. Makes them good in very niche and specific scenarios, like farming things like Training Arena 2 or certain ranking dungeons. They can get double devil, which might be relevant as well, but I feel like it's incredibly niche, and with Zeo Megazord's weapon assist, you can inherit through a weapon assist 2 evolution material killers onto any card you want, so that means you can get like on something like, say, Tilly, who has unconditionally high damage when above 80% health. Stick that on her. Wow, so much damage. It's like more helpful to have it as a weapon assist. So Artemis, I feel, has lost quite a bit of value because of that reason. Next is Yomi. And Yomi, she can be a very, very gentle introduction training wheels leader, I feel. For newer accounts, you have pretty solid multipliers for attack, okay amounts of damage reduction, some team health. You have extra movement time with their active skill. Like, it's a good training wheels leader, I feel. But eventually you'll want to convert them into their weapon assist because it provides much more value. So their weapon assist gives you full bind immunity, and they give it a very utility-heavy active skill. So they provide 3 small benefits, but when you factor them all in together, it can solve multiple problems. Especially if your box is not that deep, you are able to then cover multiple possible problems in one go. It may not be the best solution for each metric, but that flexibility is helpful. So those 3 metrics are, you get bonus orb movement time, which is great because you can overwrite time debuffs. You get 2 times RCV, which again overwrites RCV debuffs. It can stop like the lethal Coliseum 2, like RC debuff 1 floor into another floor. Preemptive, you're dead. You stop that. And you also get 2 times burst damage for light teams. So you stick this on something like Diao Chan, who is not bind immune if you take the force skill boost route. Solves that problem. Gives her utility active even more utility. Not a bad option overall. Next is Joker, and I still feel like he's a bit of a joke. His base form is lots of L's, and L's are not relevant. Like, L's are awkward, they don't work with VDP, and VDP is what we need to have. No way to use them at this point in time. For their weapon assist, they give an L awakening. So, the amount of value this will bring to your monster box hinges on, do you have an L unlock awakening weapon assist? If you have one, it's not that helpful. I don't find myself craving for L awakenings that often. Ranking dungeons can be for style points. Most teams I bring in arena and whatnot, they have L's anyways, but if you are able to cover all the other metrics that are more dangerous, throwing in an L on a card can be helpful. Their active skill gives you a 50% max heal, +1 combo count. Not that great of an active, but if you're desperate for an L, can be your solution. And now we come to the 5-star cards, and many of them are quite disappointing, and that's going to be the vast majority of your rolls. So I feel like it's not worth it rolling in this event, mostly because of this reason. So for the first 5-star card is Helen. You don't do much of anything. She has a funny pose. You get 3 turns of 2 times RCV, and then 3 turns of 2 times attack for wood. That's not enough. These are awakenings from, like, I don't know what year that would be from, but it's not from 2020. It's not from this decade. Next is a girl I can't pronounce. It's like an extremely bad Kuroyuri heal. It's only 7,000 health for 4 turns. Oh, sorry. Instantly heals 7,000 health, but then it's 4 turns of 10% heal. Like, what is 10% going to do? If you're at 200,000 health, it's 20,000 heal. Like, that's not that impressive. Kuroyuri heals 40% if I'm not mistaken. That would be 80,000. That is relevant. This is not. Those awakenings, no. Like, what year is that again? Tenfufa gives you super blind resist, double 7 combo, and could have tape. She has terrible weighted stats, but if you're an account who has not many options and you want to have a dark sub that can provide cool amounts of utility as a good training wheels card, I feel like they can be something to possibly consider. I wouldn't use it if you have much spicier options available, but again, training wheels can be helpful. Atlantis is terrible in their base form. Like, pretend it doesn't exist. Let's go to their weapon assist, and that's why they actually are quite useful. And it's kind of like the saving grace for the 5-star pool, because it gives at least 1 pretty useful card. And it's because they provide 5 passive damage awakenings, 3 rows, 2 orb enhances. I don't think there's any other passive damage weapon assist that can provide as much damage, so that obviously has merits, because we are starting to get much spicier options for subs and other weapon assists that can cover all the relevant resists and hazards necessary. So, like, for instance, you throw something like Chidori on your team, you have full poison immunity now. You have Gamayla as well. You have cloud immunity. Like, you're covering metrics much more easily. So you're going to be wanting to have damage output now. And layering passive damage through this weapon assist can be tremendously powerful. And while their active skill is quite weak and is on a reasonably short cooldown, which can mean it accidentally charges up, it's not terrible. It gives you 3 water orbs, which can be helpful, and no skyfalls means you cancel out no skyfall debuffs. So say you hit Zeus Verse in Altarena 3, that 10-turn debuff is now 1. I'll take that as a good option. Next is Orpheus. They have 2 co-op boost awakenings, but the main idea of double co-op boost awakening cards is you inflate their attack stat, which means they are able to deal more damage when they inherit a button like Shust, for example. Unfortunately for Orpheus, his base attack is incredibly low. There are much higher attack cards out there that make much better button bases. He has only 2 skill boosts. Like, there are stronger things out there. For their weapon assist, I have no idea what happened to this co-op boost, but clearly it's a weird awakening. But with co-op boost, you give the owning card more damage. So, for example, you inherit him on Brachydios, who has a gargantuan attack stat, a 300 times button as a natural base skill. Give him more stats. If you co-op farm, this can be useful. Obviously, if you don't play co-op, this is completely useless. Next is Delphyne, and she has potentially 2 healer killers plus healer killer lanes. So she can be a solution for that, but that is an incredibly situational aspect overall. Possibly more emphasis will go on her weapon assist. She provides triple jam resist, so 60% against what I feel is one of the weaker metrics, but it can be useful if you just want to have it or you have excess amounts of space. And the active skill is 4 times attack for dragon types. That's very specific. Like Fag and Rai teams, that will obviously help, or Zero cores, who also want dragons. It's quite situational. You're mostly gunning for that triple jam resist. That's kind of it. So for myself, do I plan to roll? Maybe I'll do a roll or two on stream. Probably not. I don't know. It's like the 5-star cards make me quite unexcited, but I do kind of want to have Atlantis because I don't have that kind of powerhouse through passive damage, but it doesn't feel like it's necessarily justification enough to roll. But as alluded to, my dream 5-star roll will be Atlantis because I want that sweet passive damage. For 6 stars, I want Grand Starster. I feel like they provide quite a bit of value for a mono water sub. If I start playing Coliseum of Water teams, they're a great solution. Reasonably strong card. And the other 6-star cards, in all honesty, don't necessarily appeal to me as much, partially because I do also have many of them already. So Shust is partial default winner, partial I want to have them. And then for the Dream 7-star card, it'd be the brand new Wood Monster because she's new. Like I mentioned, I have quite a few of the other higher rarity cards as well, and something new is always going to help. It'll bring my okay wood box into higher levels of gameplay because I now have a much stronger leader who can do a lot of things. Even though I don't have a viable or strong 7x6 leader swap solution for this, it still might happen one day. So, in conclusion, I feel like the event is still reasonably strong, but I just feel it feels old. Like, it's not helping with the transformational meta, which can mean it does fall behind possibly very quickly, but they are still useful cards to have. And in all honesty, almost every 7-star card has useful amounts of value. Most of them I rank reasonably high because they do something, and with their weapon assists are actually not bad. So if you want to roll, maybe just do a bit, but because this is a reoccurring event, it will come back on a regular basis. There is no rush. I would wait for it to come back when it's at its peak. Last time, it was at one of its higher points because, relatively speaking to other options, they were better cards. It's gone downhill by comparison. Maybe next time it comes back, it will be on the rise once again. We don't know, but we know it's going to come back all the time, so there is no immediate rush. With that being said, let me know what you think about this event in the comments below and whether or not you plan on rolling. Regardless of all that, hopefully all the Mantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.